I'm artist in residence at the sixth oldest university, and helping restore their recording program, and also helping out in composition of. It's really exciting. It's composition of people who aren't musicians. So. With the university, as with all universities should have robust music programs, but this one we take nurses and engineering students and put them through songwriting courses and learn how to record in a studio on Pro Tools and all the kind of latest whiz-bag things. And so we did a pilot program, and it's just been fantastic.
Okay, why? Not that I think it's a bad idea, but why do that? What does it bring out?
Well, the human brain is an interesting beast, and really the only time that both sides of the brain work together is when you are creating and performing music. That's there are a couple of other things. One's eating and one's procreating. But the other one is the main one is music. So we figure that not only is it a break from the rigor of brutal academic life in the sciences, but it gives them a chance to unleash their creative side. And there's been some really fantastic things done. So,
I bet.
Yeah, so we're expanding upon that program.
I was reading something recently about brainwaves. And how when people are working together, be it a sporting team or music especially, something like that, dance, for example, people's brainwaves will get on the same wavelengths. They'll be very similar, what is being seen.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't have much knowledge of that.
But I thought that's fascinating because as soon as it stops, their brainwaves go back to being their own, so to speak.
Yep.
But to work in unison, their brainwaves have to be on the same path. And I thought, what? Human beings? Amazing.
Yes. Yeah, no, there's been some great studies done. And in fact, Anita Collins here in Australia has done a lot of these studies overseas where they put electrodes and things on people in an orchestra to see what the brains are doing. It's like watching the fireworks in Sydney or watching the river fire, and that's what's happening in the brain. So we figure that if we can have people who are not musicians experience that and how it is, it's going to help them. Because as musicians, apparently we have a better sorting system. So there's a better filing system in our brains because we've got to remember all this music and all sorts of things. Now, people in the sciences, they've got to remember all sorts of things that I don't even know what they are. But,
I'm sure they have to remember a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, they do. But apparently our filing system gets better. So that's good. And the other thing I was doing was I've been working with the BBC in London, and the last gig I did with them was with Delta Goodrem.
Oh, nice.
Yes, for Radio 2, the Piano Room Month. Everyone on the planet wants to get on this gig. It's 20 artists in the month of February, and they do 3 songs each with the live to air with the BBC Concert Orchestra, and I've been involved in it since its inception. So,
you must have been able to work with some big names then.
I worked with a guy called Tom Odell, and I didn't know who he was until I saw that he'd had 2 billion hits of his hit song on YouTube, and then I knew who he was.
YouTube is a whole nother universe now, isn't it? It's like you don't even need to be big on Spotify. You can just be big on YouTube.
Well, he also does sold-out stadium concerts all over Europe. So, yeah.
Wow. Seán O'Boyle, my guest this evening on 612 ABC Brisbane. You're with Kelly Higgins-Devine. Seán, of course, just such a renowned Australian composer, conductor, educator. And he's been doing lately a project with the Southern Cross Soloists, and it was part of the Divine Alchemy program, and it was inspired by the life of Waka Waka elder Maureen Williams. It was called The Wise Woman, composed by Seán, along with Chris Williams in there as well. Maureen was Chris's grandmother, and he's a magnificent didgeridoo soloist. I'll just play you a little bit of Chris's work. This I don't think is from The Wise Woman, but it's from his website. Let's have a listen. That's Chris Williams. Seán O'Boyle, the didgeridoo is a uniquely Australian sound, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's amazing. I've met people in Sydney who come from somewhere, and you take them down to Circular Quay and there's a didgeridoo playing, and it's just, the Opera House is there, the Harbour Bridge, and it's, didgeridoo and maybe a dance troupe, and it's just wonderful. My journey with the didgeridoo was quite slow. It wasn't until the ABC and the Sydney Olympics theme that I actually put didgeridoo into a work. And it was a very young William Button. I think he was 17 years old at the time.
Wow, a baby!
And we recorded it with Queensland Symphony. And I was so embarrassed because I knew nothing about what the didgeridoo could do. And we recorded the orchestral bit and then got him to improvise. And he took it away and he came back and he just played this thing which turned what was a good piece into this thing that was magnificent. And so then we resolved to write the Concerto for Didgeridoo together, which we did, and a few other works. And then Chris Williams, who I knew was a trumpet player. Mm-hmm. So trumpet player in classical and jazz. He did his masters in London on trumpet. But he plays a little bit of trumpet now, but he's just more didgeridoo. So he brings, William brought many special things to it, but Chris has learned from what William has done, and because of his knowledge of classical music and how to read and all these things, he's just brought it into not the next level but a different sphere. So it's really exciting.
As a composer then, what do you have to keep in mind when you're writing for didgeridoo that you might not have to consider or you consider differently than traditional orchestral instruments?
Yeah, so with the Southern Cross Soloists, we have this commissioning series from 2022 to when the Olympics come. So we're commissioning 3 pieces a year for 10 years, which is a big undertaking to do. And it gives Chris new pieces to play every year. So to that end, composers, as you say, didn't really know what to do. So we made a 6-part YouTube series at University of Queensland about things to consider when writing for didgeridoo. So we had a small chamber group. We had Chris there and Tanya Fraser, who's the artistic director of Southern Cross Soloists, and I presented it and went through all these rhythms and how to, create melodies out of rhythms and how to notate the melodies that the didgeridoo makes into something that we in Western music can understand, and more importantly, how to marry it so that it's just not, we've written this piece, play some didgeridoo on it. A very famous Australian composer who's passed away a few years ago did that, recreated his whole catalogue and got William to play didgeridoo on everything. But that we thought that's, it's great for William to have done that, but if you can collaborate and really, work on a piece together and have the image going, and it's been amazing. So I've now written quite a number of pieces for Chris and the Southern Cross Soloists.
Well, one of them is, of course, The Wise Woman, which was part of the Divine Alchemy program, and now that's being turned into a ballet.
Yeah, so I was in Australia and I'd worked with Francois Claus in the ballet, but I'd never worked with Lee, although I'd written an opera with Lee's wife's sister, Annie Rollins. So we kind of had this, what is that, 6 degrees of separation?
6 degrees of separation, yeah.
So before it was announced that he was leaving, I was here, so we took a meeting and I said, we've got this with Southern Cross Soloists, we'd love to do a chamber work in their Bespoke program, and we want to use the didgeridoo. And we didn't know at the time that we would make The Wise Woman, which is a concert piece, into a ballet, which has to be longer. And Lee said straight away, this sounds fantastic, let's do it.
Lee Xuan-Sing has no fear.
No fear.
I think that was one of his biggest gifts, is that he would go, that sounds new and exciting, let's give it a whirl, let's do it.
Yes. So it's been great working with the ballet. Katina Olsen is the choreographer, who is a Waka Waka woman.
Yep.
So Chris and Katina live on the Sunshine Coast. So I'm heading up there for a month so that we can sit around and yarn about it, because we have to extend the music out from 10 minutes to almost 30. Yeah. And so we've got different bits to do it, but there's parts of it that are so intrinsical to the story. But we have to figure out, dramatically how to do this. And working with the choreographer and the digitals, and co-compose with me and being able to spend a month on it is just brilliant.
That will be so joyful as well, being able to do that. Seán O'Boyle, my guest this evening on 612 ABC Brisbane with Kelly Higgins-Devine. The Wise Woman, as I understood it in its original form, was it had ebb and flow to it in terms of where you were in Maureen Williams's story. So will you be elongating those individual pieces or adding to them somehow?
Yeah, there'll be parts of it. So in the original, which will be in the ballet, some parts of it, the family lives on the banks of a river in a tent that didn't have a floor, and every day she would sweep the dirt floor.
Yeah,
and so that's in it. So we managed to figure out how to recreate, that's a kind of languid scene, and with the scratchings of the dirt floor. Her and her husband also managed the Longreach Showgrounds. So we've got this big carnival thing, like a wild carnival ride in the middle of it. So there's all little aspects of her life. Most importantly, with the family talking, telling the yarns to me, is her love of education, even though she wasn't educated much past, I don't think she even finished primary school. But her kids and grandkids and nephews, nieces, she just encouraged them all to get the best education, and most of them have at least an undergraduate degree, and because of her passion for it. So that we bring out. And she was always rushing everywhere, so there's all these rushing elements to it as well.
Do you get to do much of that sort of transitioning of pieces from being, a piece for the Southern Cross Soloists, for example, or an orchestral piece into a ballet? And I'm thinking, well, all you need to do now is make it an opera, and you've sort of crossed all three. Yeah.
Yes, we'll do that. Why not?
Why not?
Why not? It's interesting. I really haven't done too much of that.
Yeah.
I've taken orchestral works and made them smaller, which is really interesting to do because you've got, 76 players who, 5 percussionists, all this, and all of a sudden you've got like 6 players. And you have to get the great big thing. We did that with the Didgeridoo Concerto, which was massive, and it made it for 8 players, and Chris played it. So I've done it kind of the other way, but the expansion, not so much, and especially taking a piece, knowing that you have to expand it to a significant chunk of ballet. I really haven't done that before, but I've got a fairly good idea of how I'll do it.
Yeah, well, you've obviously written ballets before, so writing for dance, is that different than writing for just an orchestra, for example?
Yeah, writing for dance is great to work with the choreographer. And when Francois had the Queensland Ballet, when he was the artistic director, the stuff that I did, he choreographed, which was great because he would send me a note saying, we need, to be 2 lines. We need 2 minutes of marketplace frantic music, and that would be it.
Sure.
So
I'll just whack that in for you, shall I?
I wrote for 1,001 Nights, and I wrote a little bit of the Aladdin music because he didn't want it to be the Disney version. He wanted it to be the Chinese version. So so he just kept sending me notes, and we only needed, 20 minutes or something in 1,001 Nights, ended up writing an hour of music. So then we turned that into a standalone ballet.
Yeah.
And just a 1 hour, one thing, and it was for families and kids, and it was at the Lyric Theatre for 24 performances.
Well, I intend to have a good look at Bespoke when it is finally finished. Now, Bespoke by Queensland Ballet, and it's 3 ballets that will be performed on the same nights, is on at the Thomas Dixon Centre in West End from July 25th to August 3rd, and tickets are available now. So we look forward to seeing it.
But snap them up because they'll be gone pretty soon.
They always are.
And the theatre, the Talbot Theatre, by the way, I toured it yesterday, is absolutely beautiful. It is a gem that we have here in Brisbane, so we are very lucky.
We certainly are. Thank you so much, Seán, for coming in.
Thank you, Kelly.